Good evening, all. Welcome to another edition of what is now going to be called Uncle Trav's Campaign Notes. Because I am your Uncle Trav, I'm here to help you folks. As you know, as I talk about this over the next 2 hours, any publications or books or whatnot, I like them. I'm not getting compensated by the publishers. I'm not affiliated with TriTac Games in any way, although I was an employee of them years ago. If I refer to them, it's out of love and respect for the game line. So, tonight's topic, and it's something that you GMs need to be aware of in a big way. It is consulting player SMEs. Now, an SME is a subject matter expert, someone who knows stuff about stuff. You're going to have them in your games. You're always going to have somebody who a subject matter expert, a good way to describe it is your go-to person on a certain subject. I have plenty of them. When I joke around about Trav car people, Trav tech people, Trav food people, yeah, it's because these are people I go to for these purpose things. Trav has pagan people. I mean, the Detroit pagan community is huge, and just there's a lot of people I can go to. Okay, I heard about this particular pantheon and what they do, or, the goddess, what does she do, or how does this ritual go? I get pissed in ocean. So, subject matter experts, everybody has them. How to go about picking their brains to make your games fire, that is tonight's topic. Now, there's a lot of subjects that can come into a game. And by the way, if you see a Band-Aid over here, or over here, yeah, you should see the other 20 guys. Just, I'll put that out there. So, yeah, you're going to have them in your game. You're going to have people who know stuff about stuff, and some of it is going to be very specific topics. Others are just going to be, okay, I know a lot about science, or I know a lot about history. Then you're going to get that one person that goes, well, no, I know the chemistry that goes into stained glass making. I'm looking at you, Carrie. She's in my Thursday and Friday night games, and stained glass is one of her major hobbies. And so if I bring up something about chemistry, about stained glass, I better consult her beforehand before I use it in the game so I get it correctly. Because the one thing that SMEs will do, and you're a game master, if you bring up a subject you've not researched, you will get called on it in the middle of the game. I have had this happen to me plenty of times, so I speak from experience, and that's what a lot of these campaign deals are about. It's part how to do things and how not to do things, because I can also be a cautionary tale on many subjects. So, as I said, there are a bunch of subjects that you can have that you have SMEs at your table. I've come up with 4 topics that are the biggies, the ones that I feel as a GM you really need to have your shit together on. Because if not, it will stop the game. I mean, not stop the game like, okay, that's fucking, I'm going home. No, you will have to stop and talk and this. And so a good thing is to pick your players' brains on this, which I have done repeatedly. And as I said, I got 4 really big points that I think are the essentials, the biggies that you need to get down. That you need to make sure that your shit's tight so you can run this game and not get caught. Because it will come into arguments. And there are certain topics, of course, you don't want to bring to your table, but these are the ones I rely on, and these are the ones I work on to make sure my games are fire, and so I'm passing this information on to you. Remember, I've been tabletop gaming for almost 40 years. I've been game mastering for 35. I podcast about it on Podbean. It's called Gaming on the Frontier. Check that out. I've been doing that for like 13 years. And published role-playing game designer from TriTac Games. I led the conversion project for Bureau 13 to OGL, and I worked on the Fringeworthy D20 project for OGL. Matter of fact, my co-host Bruce Sheffer, he and I worked together on those when we were both at TriTac. So I have a lot of experience to give. That's where I come up with the topics from. I've still got 8 or 9 topics I can do before I go, oh, I need more topics to do. But tonight's is picking the brains of your players to make sure that your information is correct. Now, the biggie here, and I didn't really put these in importance, but yeah, these are things you need to know. And my first topic, and I think you know by now, you've seen my format here. I'll pick 4 topics I'll spend a half hour on, but that's also because I'm giving you anecdotal examples from my time behind the screen. Even though I game everything through my laptop because I do all PDFs, this laptop screen that I have here that I'm looking at you through is my screen. So on the other side of the table are all of my SMEs, or they're on Skype or Discord, because since the pandemic I've learned to do virtual games really well. So anyone who is not on this side of the GF screen are usually my SMEs as well as my players. So the first thing, really important, your sciences. Now, we know that in a lot of these games, it's magic or superpowers, and it's not science, and this and that, and, hand-waving. Hand-waving is the big thing with sciences. You will get players who make sure science is used. Accept this as fact. You're going to have that person who knows chemistry. You're going to have that person who knows physics. You're going to have that person that knows about criminology or archaeology. You are going to have that person who knows about, the life sciences, biology, botany, zoology. Now, I suck at the hard in life sciences. Chemistry, physics, biology, botany, I'm not good at. And I'm autistic, I have a learning disability, I realize that. However, half a lifetime ago, I was a criminalistics student at Eastern Michigan University from like 88, 89 to 93. And I didn't complete my degree because I found out I was going to be a dad, and I've been in the workforce ever since. My child is now 29. I wanted to get into the criminal justice field, so I had to take psych classes, sociology classes, anthropology, criminalistics. I had to do a bit of police sciences. I did a couple classes at a community college in our area called Schoolcraft College. And the campus is maybe 10 minutes south of me. And this was fall 87, and then fall 89, I started at EMU, and I was there. So I'm like maybe a year away from the degree. It's just I became a dad and had to work at a warehouse job, and I'm now at, after 27 and a half years there, I'm at my current one, and, doing this. So yeah, the sciences. I am an armchair social scientist. I was going to go into the FBI. That was one of the things I looked for. Something, I didn't want to be a cop, but there were so many other jobs in the criminal justice field. I've been to job fairs. You could be a railroad cop. You could work for the U.S. Postal Service. Refer to the old Showtime series, The Postman, with Louis Gossett Jr. and Jonathan Silverman. They are the only USPS employees allowed to carry firearms. Because they're the ones that, you're mailing firearms or drugs to the U.S. mail, and so we got to stop you. Yeah, and they're all based on real-life cases. And, of course, Louis Gossett Jr. played the older, Jonathan Silverman was the rookie. So, yeah, there are all types of criminal justice jobs, and I was going to go into that field. So my psych, my soc, my criminology are pretty decent. I have in my Thursday, Friday, and hopefully my Sunday games, and she's Splinter Kitty here on Twitch, a real, honest-to-God archaeologist. Now, we already had, this woman has been in my gaming group maybe a year, and we already got stories. We finally met a couple weeks ago. She's a delightful person. Courtney is just a sweetheart, very intelligent, funny, and she has been a shot in the arm to my gaming groups. Because she brings it all to the table. I very rarely gush about players. I mean, I have my players, but there are a few, they just stand out for certain reasons. Courtney has her reason. So she is an honest-to-God archaeologist. Digging in the dirt, pulling out bone fragments and clay pot. She's done this all. And one of the things I wanted to do, I wanted to run a camp, and I still got it in there. I know I just can't have her in the game. If you are familiar with the anime and the Netflix series Rurouni Kenshin, about Batasai, the guy who uses the backward bladed katana, and he was like a killer during the Meiji Restoration. Okay, that era, late 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s in Japan, where the samurai were being phased out. That era of history. And I brought that up, and Courtney, and I tell this story, and I know she's going to get bored of it after a while. Wait a minute, you're going to play a game in the Meiji Restoration era with an archaeologist, and then this woman busts out into near idiomatic Japanese. And I'm like, okay, stop. No historical campaigns with the archaeologists. And so yeah, that is the prime example of knowing your history. If I run a historical campaign with her, I mean, bless her, great woman, very intelligent. It's just no historical campaigns with this person because I will get cut to ribbons every time, or she'll have to be my co-GM. I also had my old college buddy, former roommate, one of my original gamers, Jerry Gentry, big into chemistry and physics. So I would bring up something about physics, and he's throwing at me Planck's constant and all this, and I'm just, that glaze over look you get when somebody just don't want to hear you anymore, which I get being autistic. I get that a lot from people. Oh, Jacinda Flowers. Hello, ma'am. Hi. We follow each other here on Twitch. She is speaking of stained glass artists, she's one of them, yeah. And also a lot of poolside chats and stuff, but she does stained glass work during the day, and unfortunately I'm at work, so I don't get to watch that. Thank you for popping in. J.A. Cinda Flowers, all one word, the J and the F are big. Go to her channel, check her stuff out. Anyways. And so making sure your sciences are tight. And as I said, these are all sciences, not just your chemistry and physics. Biology, botany, zoology, psychology, sociology, criminology, archaeology, anthropology. You have, the life sciences, the hard sciences, the social sciences, earth sciences. So geology, geography, geography we'll touch on later. Paleontology. If you're going to be using this stuff in here, and you have somebody in your group that knows this, pick their brains. Because if not, they will call you on in the middle of the game and be like, oh, no, actually, that dinosaur was found here at this spot in 1953 on this island, And that's going to slow down the game, because then you got to sit there and backpedal and rethink, and it slows down the flow of the game. The players get out of the characters' heads, and it stops everything, and your suspension of disbelief disappears because you're too busy having to muck around with, and it's not minutiae because it's important to your game. As I said, fellow stained glass artist Carrie in Baltimore, she was my roommate's old girlfriend. She moved to Baltimore. We're all still friends, everything. Stained glass artist and a bit of a history and mythology buff. So So there are certain things about history and mythology I've had to consult her on, and she'll bring into the game. Matter of fact, in the game based on my failed comic book universe, The Traveler's Earth, she brought up a new thing which added to the canon called the New Avatars. Eons old alien AIs who have merged with human beings under the guise of, yes, I am this god. So you have her character Aegis has an AI fashioned on the Greek goddess Athena. You have stuff, the Celtic raven goddess I'm blanking on. And of course, we're even talking about enemy AIs like, I said, well, Hun Came, the Mayan god of death, who resides in the realm of Xibalba in, Central America. That's all, as I said, that's all Mayan pantheon stuff. But, so, with her knowledge of history and mythology, she's brought all of these new character concepts that I can use in my campaign world. I made this campaign world in the early 90s. As I said, I tried to be a comic book artist, got screwed by the first white baby mama out of it. Because she wanted to get paid, and I didn't find out till years later that she did this. I thought the guy who was going to print the comics at the 92 Motor City Comic Con screwed me. No, it was her. So, Carrie has brought in with her knowledge of history and mythology new things for this campaign world, which I would have never thought of 35 years ago. So, the fact sciences, that kind of counts sort of as a scientific discipline, but I am concentrating more on your hard social sciences. Anthropology could be, and archaeology could be tied into mythology. So if I'm gonna have Courtney in the game, I better make sure that my stuff about, if I want to use the Shroud of Turin or the shards of Jesus' cross, if I'm going to use those in a game that's like urban fantasy, I might want to consult her about it, because she'll have her information a lot better than what I could find, because she studied this stuff. Her master's thesis was on Japanese architecture, hence the knowledge of Japanese, where she just busted out idiomatic Japanese. I'm like, okay, again, no more historical campaigns with the archaeologists in them. So yeah, your sciences have to be tight. Now, we have a running joke in my Thursday game with Carrie and our friend Will. Will is a huge science geek. Now, I was running a game, kind of imagine Farscape, but in the Eberron setting, people taken from other D&D realms, and they're in a slave ship, and then they take control of the ship with one of the soldiers on board, and that was my NPC, and they hated him. Oh, God. I have never had hatred toward an NPC until that game. Well, it got to the point they got back to the world of the people that took them, and they found this place, and it was in the Eberron setting where there's big slabs of gold from a previous civilization. They took one, and behind my back, Carrie is there asking about the physics of dropping this size of gold on this city of, and the capital city of the people that stole them. These people were not good characters. They were criminals anyways. It's just, if you are familiar with the Eberron setting, the Readrons, the Psychic Nation in Keith Baker's wonderful Eberron setting, which is my favorite D&D setting out of all of them. So, Carrie's there secretly contacting Will, and I hadn't met him yet. I wouldn't meet him probably for another 2 or 3 years. Will's been in my games now for like 5 years. And Will, as I said, just incredibly intelligent man. He's funny as hell. I just saw him. Carrie came up to Michigan. Will with his girlfriend Amanda, my girlfriend Fern and I met, and then Courtney came up from northern Kentucky, Cincinnati suburbs. She had to drop a cat off for her stepson. So we're all together, and I bring up the thing with Carrie and Will, and I'm just looking at these two. And they know I'm about to drop this bomb on them because Will sat there and figured out the science of how big of a kill zone would be from this size a piece of gold dropping on this population, and just the damage, destruction, and desolation zones. Those zones are used, like if a nuclear bomb hits, the immediate damage, then out more. Okay, that type of stuff. Basically, we're talking Rod of God stuff. Refer to the G.I. Joe movie with The Rock in it. The Rise of Cobra was the first one, I forget. But they did a Rod of God type thing, and in the movie it destroyed London. We're talking the entire city. This titanium rod come down. Look it up on YouTube. It's hellish. And so Will's sitting there computing all this out, physics and everything. Tells Carrie, I busted my ass playing this campaign, and they ended the campaign because it's like, okay, you just took out our capital city with gold found on another continent in our world. We will let you be. Take the ship and just go, please. They killed 70,000 people with this. And needless to say, my campaign was done. And I'm looking, okay, we need to come up with a new damn campaign idea. And it was Carrie. Years later, when Will gets into my game, Trav, what? And usually when I hear either Trav or my given name, Robert, like, okay, I know something's about to happen. I'm about to hear some shit. I'm not going to be happy. And Will's in the game. You remember your Space Chase campaign, which Space Chase was the original name for Farscape. And since it was kind of Farscape from among the D&D worlds, I'm like, yes, Carrie. You remember that Space Chase campaign with how we ended it? It said, yeah, you literally threw money at the problem. Yeah, I had help figuring out the physics, and Will does this giggle, and I'm like, you motherfucker, ow. And so I've met him since then, and so at this gathering up at a place in Roseville, Michigan called the World's End. A craft burger bar, they got board games, they got beer on tap, microbrew stuff, and these boozy shakes that are wonderful. Get the chocolate mint. Anyways, Carrie and Will are there, and I'm just looking at them like this. And they know what's about to happen, and Will's girlfriend Amanda goes, oh, Will, look at it. I'm just like, so, I got a little story to tell about these two in my game, and Will's like, oh, shit. Carrie's there giggling. My roommate's also there. He's grinning because he knew the story, and just Ver's like, oh, Trav's going to just scorched earth. Here we go. And Courtney's next to me, so she's hearing this for, I think, maybe the second time. And I'm like, no, you two ruined months of work. I wanted to jump through the computer and throttle both of you. We here at Twitch do not condone physical violence against your players in any way, shape, or form. But no, just because Will is that good in the sciences, yeah. And there are times, because he has this iconic character that I brought into my metaverse He's an Ember Mage from the Forgotten Realms known as Zen Falconen, aka Char, who now has become a superhero in this world, and he poses as Alexei Galashvili, occult investigator from country of Georgia, not state. And so he did this, and so what Zen will do is, yeah, I want to put a wall of force right here. We're fighting like, your Sentai Power Rangers where it grows, and so, yeah, we managed to knock him up and knock him back down this wall of force. And how can I put this as delicately as possible? He was cleft in twain from underneath because of and wills into physics. And I'm like, when your players want to do something, you let them do it because it gives them agency in the game, and it's more fun. Again, railroading your game is a cardinal sin as far as I'm concerned. If you have, you're on this plot line and I'm not going to let you go, and cardinal sin. Get rid of your Game Master screen and just stop GMing. So Will did this, and I'm wanting to see how this plays out. And I'm rolling dice and everything, and I have a very vivid imagination. I'm imagining the 60-foot tall monster being he was cleft in twain from underneath, and yeah. And it was a male monster, so yeah, do the math, folks. I've had a vasectomy, so I wince even then. So yeah, it's because this player knew about science, physics, anatomy. And that's part of biology. I used to be a testing center proctor at a community college like 35 years ago, so I had to give out the occasional biology and anatomy and physiology tests to like nursing students. So yeah, I picked up a thing here and there about seeing the stuff, and yeah, and so Will did that, and so I have Jerry Gentry was good at chemistry and physics. Again, throwing Planck's constant at me, and it was the first time I heard. I'm like, I had to look it up. And of course, when I start seeing scientific formulae, I glaze over. I'm just like, because I don't get it. I as I said, I'm autistic. I have a learning disability. I admit that freely. Problem is, anything fixie techie buildy and hard sciences, I am bad at. If I don't get it right away, I will throw something. I admit this freely. Just I suck at those things, but social sciences I was always good at. So yeah, sciences. As I said, hard sciences, life sciences, social sciences, earth science, all that stuff. If you have people in your campaign, pick their brain. Let's see, who else is good with sciences? Okay, Carrie. Yeah, okay, chemistry. Oh! I can't forget the lab rat, Gina Jones. Works at a local oil refinery downriver Detroit. Okay, we're going to get this out of the way now. I'm going to mention this a lot. Downriver is all the bedroom communities south and southwest of Detroit, Michigan. I am from the Downriver area. My family is. I am from Lincoln Park. My family's from Lincoln Park, home of Dave Clark and the MC5. I was born in Wyandotte. Lucille Ball and Lee Majors both lived there at one time or another. One of them, I think, was born there. Either I Love Lucy or the $6 Million Man. It's all the bedroom community south and southwest of Detroit. If you're here, like here's Detroit, it's all this stuff down here that goes down to like Lake Erie. That's downriver. There's an oil refinery for Marathon Oil. She works there. So I have a petrochemical chemist in my game. So needless to say, that's also been handy. And also she'll do things like dyeing things for like Gulf Wars and Pennsic Wars, which is coming up next Friday? Yeah. So having a petrochemical science, and she's going to get a chemistry degree at Washington Community College, so she's going downriver to Ann Arbor all the time, and that's about a 45-minute drive each way. I've done that when I went to EMU. I lived with my grandpa in Lincoln Park. So, yeah, if chemistry comes up, I'm going to go to Gina more than Carrie. There's nothing against Carrie, it's just Gina is actually, she's been working for Marathon for like 25 years. If it's something about petroleum, I'm pretty sure Miss Jones will know about it. Then there's a whole other story with the key lime pie with the coconut crust. We'll get into that later. That might be a future topic. Food and drink at your games. Matter of fact, I might want to write that down when I'm done. But no, sciences is very important. Because your players will want to use them, and if you use them in your game and you get calls, as I said, it's going to slow down the game some. Because you're going to be having to look on Wikipedia. Okay, Planck's constant is, the velocity and speed and the mass of the object, all that stuff. And I for that I need help. My psych and social is good, but then again, having an archaeologist in my Thursday, Friday, and probably even Sunday games. As I say, Courtney, I adore your wonderful You were one of my newest, fastest friends, but I'm not going to go up against you in history. I know my limitations. Trav is not perfect, and yes, that is being recorded. So if my girlfriend Fur does see this, yes, rip the clip and play it repeatedly because I have it coming. So yeah, your sciences, you need to have that stuff down. And if you're good at a science, play to your strengths. If you have a campaign that is like a superhero campaign, a lot of times they talk about genetics because, oh, mutants on the genome and all this. If you're good at, biology and, genetics, study up on it. It will give, and there is a term, some people hate it, verisimilitude. If you are playing a game that has a subject that helps link it to your players, it'll make it help the fantasy feel more real to them. And so, I don't have any geneticists that I know of or biology major. Well, I do have an old roommate who's still a friend of mine. Chemistry and culinary arts. Makes THC chocolates on the side. So she puts those two things together. It's like a chocolate and peanut butter thing, as my buddy Bruce would say. So yeah, your science knowledge, if you could pick your players' brains for science knowledge and try to do it before the game, let them know, I want to do this, how would this apply and this, and your players will be good enough where they'll keep player and character knowledge aside. My players tend to do characters that they can use their player knowledge. Oh yeah, my character has 10 ranks in knowledge physical science and 10 ranks in craft chemical. Yes, Gina, we figured you would. So yeah. And so, with having your sciences tight, it helps build your environment too, because barring a lot of hand-waving, science is usually pretty inviolable law until we find... That's the beauty about the scientific method. Until we find new things to discover, you have hypothesis, theory, and fact. No fact is ever stable. New scientific techniques, new technologies will always push the boundaries of science, and that's something we need to reinforce in this country because most of y'all motherfuckers are losing it out there. I said what I said. Hashtag I said what I said. Our science and technology is going down the toilet in this country. The scientific method needs to be reinforced in schools and whatnot. And so you have a hypothesis, and you test it, and then it's a full-fledged theory. It's a fact for now until you find something. It's Einstein's theory of relativity. For a while, that was the stable, boom, okay, this is an inviolate law. Einstein came. But then with modern science and science and technology evolving, there's been some things about the theory of relativity, although it was good base. You get shit like quantum mechanics and string theory. Stephen Hawking's and and Neil deGrasse Tyson, they start throwing things in there, and they're realizing, okay, Herr Einstein, you did some good work, but we found some new stuff that kind of puts your stuff. We still honor you, sir. Thank you. But we found new stuff which we have extrapolated on, and we found there was a decimal point off here or whatever. But they still had a good start. So science is always evolving. There's never purely a thing as a scientific fact, because new information will bring about new theories, new methods, and periods of experimentation to find out, okay, we found out this, but we've also found out this. And so, I'll give one more example about sciences. In my Bureau 13 world, it is the real world, but with the fantastic in the background. I used modern melodies from LPJ, Lewis J. Porter's game company, where basically it's D20 disease. And with what I knew at the time, I made COVID. And if you contracted, you had these symptoms, boom, 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 your character had to make fort saves. So I had, and of course, we all know that the information about the coronavirus in the 3 years we had the pandemic here in the United States flip-flopped almost every month. And there were some people in this country, well, you don't know what you're doing because you keep waffling. It's because that's how science works, you dumb sons of bitches. Science changes when we have new information. We're not waffling. It's new information is hitting us constantly, and also because the coronavirus mutates rapidly. They had to keep changing their information. It's like, oh crap, it does this now. What do we do? Science experimentation, finding new theories. And yeah, so science in your games is very important. Have that locked down to the best of your ability before you go using it in your game. I'm not saying don't use it. I'm saying get it down to where, one, you're not called on it, and two, it adds verisimilitude to the game. Verisimilitude. It'll help draw your players in more when they realize, oh, wait a minute, this is a real thing. I can read about this and use this on my character. Let's say you have a geneticist, and it's like a superhero game, and you have somebody messing around with mutants. Well, if I read about geneticists and dominant alleles and, recessive genes and all this, I can, help make my game better and my character better. Yeah. My biggest learning opportunities have been through being a GM, because I've had to... Y'all don't want to see my search history, folks. We're going to say this right now. I should be putting a lot of my game research on Google's incognito tabs, because this man has researched what in the past week? You heard me. You read it. You ain't arresting me. I ain't doing anything wrong. I'm just running role-playing games, officer. Yeah. So, your sciences. And that includes many disciplines. Now that we got the hard stuff out of the way, the stuff that I don't understand most of the time, this next thing that you need to get tight, it's tied to it because it's still real-life stuff. But I kind of lumped it into history, geography, and local facts. My best example, I was running my Robotech Nightbane mashup game. Macross era, but there was urban fantasy. They started out as monster hunters, and then I brought in, things about robotechnology. 1999, a ship crashed in the South Pacific, and technology is being disseminated throughout the world. So these monster hunters started getting better and better technology with robotechnology, and I finally ended the campaign took a turning point. It was like, yeah, you've all been drafted in the RDF Academy on Macross Island. So, the characters had to go to New York to deal with one of the werewolf clans that Nightbane had in Palladium's Rifter house organ. Here's the kicker. Two of my players were a married couple from New York City. The wife, Maddie, a wonderful woman, she is from Brooklyn, and we are talking of Jewish descent. So yes, it's the Jewish American princess thing. Do the damn Spaceball joke now with John Candy. Get it out of your system. The husband, Donald, who is, and I'll hawk it, the MI car sales dude, dealwiththedude.com. Go there and get a good car if you're in the Detroit area. I have no problem hawking him. Donald is from Bedford-Stuy. So you had two dyed-in-the-wool, born and bred New Yorkers. And if you're running a game in New York, you better have your shit tight about New York. And I'm here at the table. I'm sitting over here. And I got my friend Professor Pixie, who's here on Twitch. Go to her channel and check out her video gaming. And I start asking Donald and Maddie, okay, about this. Okay, is this here? Is this here? Josie gets a little... She's autistic like me. And I will say this now. We autistic people, our social skills can be a little stunted. She kind of got up in my grill about it, as they say. And Josie wants to GM now and then and make games, so I kind of had to put her on the spot. I hated doing it. I love Pixie dearly. She was my former protege. But until I walked her down the aisle and she's popped out two human beings, there's not a hell of a lot more I can teach the young woman. So we're friends and everything, and I still pick her brain now and then. She's now pretty much a full-time mom, so it's like, because of Severus and Oren, two wonderful little boys, age 4 and like 3 months. But anyways, Pixie's there and pops off about, why are you stopping the game and this and that? And I'm like, if you have people in your game that know shit, you pick their fucking brains. I'm sorry I couldn't get to them earlier. And Pixie just shrunk back. Donald and Maddie shrunk back. And I'm like, it's like, don't tell me how to run my game. But I picked Donald and Maddie's brains because I knew we were in New York City. I wanted to make sure my shit was right because I knew they'd fucking call me on it. No, that's not there. Coney Island is further down the coast. And no, Wall Street is actually many blocks from it. Yeah, you don't want that in the middle of your game. So history, geography, and local are very important. Basically, if you're going to run something about a place that somebody has been in, pick their brains. And that's my main example was Donald and Maddie coming from New York City and just, yeah. If I were to run something about Japan, I would talk to Courtney because she's been there. I did a campaign based in Baltimore. Carrie's fiance, Matt, born and bred from Baltimore. I had to learn about stuff about Tangier Island, which is in Chesapeake Bay. I had to do research on that, and Matt was more than happy to piss me an ocean on this because he was born and raised there. His family's there. So, yeah, you have... If you're having a locale and you know someone's been there, yeah, dig in their head. And I'm going to use a term that some of you youngins might not know. It's something called a Rolodex. It's this little round thing. It's got cards sticking up, and that used to be an address book. So flipping through a Rolodex, when you're Rolodexing something, you're looking for an address, you pull the card out, and it has the address. Secretaries used to use it way back in the day. This is before we had computers in every square inch of the planet. Rolodex. Ask your parents or grandparents. Anyways, Rolodexing through stuff, and just if you're going to use a place in a game and somebody's been there, yeah, pick their brain, because I should have, contacted Donald and Maddie a little bit before about, hey, about New York, this particular place, the Port Authority, it's on what side of the island of Manhattan down here? Is it on the east or west tip? Yeah, things like that. And so that's why I put history, geography, and local stuff together. Because let's see. I'm having to do my Sunday game right now. Well, not now. I was supposed to do it yesterday. It got canceled because half my group was not feeling well, and they were going to Skype in anyway. So it was just me and Z here, and we worked on the next Sunday game, his character. Anyways, in the Sunday game, they're going to be dealing with 1934 Budapest, Hungary. Guess what one of my tabs has had to be recently? A map of Budapest. Now, I tried finding 1934. Problem is, a lot of the buildings in Budapest is one of the most beautiful cities on the planet. I'm looking at this and I am just like, and actually it's two cities. It was Buda and Pest. They're on either side of the Danube River, which is one of the biggest rivers in Europe. Blue Danube, the old classicals. Yeah. So Budapest is there, and of course we all know, Black Widow and Hawkeye. This is Budapest all over again. You and I remember Budapest very, very differently. Yeah. So 1934 Budapest. And so I used Fringeworthy, and one of the worlds that Rich Tahalka made was, yeah, you're in the middle of 1930s Budapest. And so I actually got Google Maps, shrunk down on a place there near, okay, yeah, this looks kind of like it's in Budapest. It's sort of just outside downtown. And what it is, I have a half Hungarian, half Polish spice merchant, has a shop on a little back street. So I took the Google Maps, and you got, at the lower right corner of your screen, if you use Google Maps, oh, this measurement equals 100 miles, or you get real close. This one measures 20 feet. I have a map on my big-ass pad of graph paper of a spot, a portion of about maybe a couple hundred feet by 150 feet of a section of downtown Budapest, a back street. And I forget the name. It's in Hungarian. I don't speak Hungarian. I couldn't pronounce it to save my life right now. But I drew that map as akin to Google Maps. Okay, I got, a ruler like this up on the screen. I'm like, okay, let's see, 5 centimeters and 1 centimeter is 1.7 miles. So 1.7 times 5 on the calc. Okay, this is this far. And so I'm having to do all that because I want this map of 1934 Budapest, this little block or so with a spice shop and a church nearby and a school next door to the spice shop. I want it to be as precise as possible. Again, you are bringing, and yes, we know that the city has changed since 1934. I got a little bit of wiggle room here, okay? It's not like my players are not going to research Budapest and go, well, no, that store actually got torn down in 1963. So, Google Maps is your friend. They map down quite far. Yeah, obviously, if it's saying like military stuff or things of military nature, you're not going to find the Fermi 2 nuclear plant on Google Maps, folks, and it's near Monroe, Michigan. You're not going to find it there. There are certain things that just cannot be mapped. Also in this Sunday game, part of it takes place, and they get to zip around, so they're sometimes in what was Southern California and other times South Central Pennsylvania, near like Altoona. I had to research the Raven Rock Military Complex. Now, for those of you who don't know, okay, y'all have heard, especially those of you raised during the Cold War, yeah, tail end of it here. Born in 69, yes, I'm 54. I don't look it, thank you, yes, you'll get something in my will. Anyways, I had to research the Raven Rock Military Compound, which is basically it's the underground Pentagon. If shit goes belly up in the U.S. government, they transport the president, the cabinet, the vice president, to this place deep under a mountain. It's kind of like Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado. Yes, Q Stargate, SG-1. And so I'm having to look up Raven Rock, and they'll say it's a government complex. Yeah, they're going to sit there and have, well, yes, in 1963 it was made like this, and then in 1974, there's an Air Force command staff there in charge of communication, but you're not going to get a fucking map of it. It's a government installation. So I had to, find an Army base for my game. Okay, fine, that'll work, and it's, a couple 100 feet down, and here's the guard post outside and the elevator going down. Yeah, I had to basically wiggle that. But still, as I said, there are people who don't want to see my search history because I'm having to look up a lot of weird shit, like government installations, like 3 or 4 tabs on Raven Rock, trying to find something. But that's because I knew that with my luck, I would have I was in the military, and that's not, they would have set this up. So yeah, you're going to have history, geographical locations, local customs, laws. That's another thing. Now, again, all of this, these first two, the third one too, the next topic we'll do in about 20 minutes here, 15 minutes. It's for verisimilitude. You want all your shit in your game to link and to make it feel more real to your players. So getting your history, your geography, your local shit down, consulting SMEs on it is good. If you have somebody who's in the military, pick their brains. I have a former player in my game. His name is Jaron Bradley. He lives not far from me. I pass by his house every day to and from work. He spent 14 years in the Army, National Guard, and the Marines. He was in Iraq and Afghanistan. He is a veteran. And so he's kind of my go-to guy in military shit because he's been in 3 different branches. Well, technically, the National Guard it's a subset of the Army. So Army and Marines, more than enough military experience for me to pick his brain, and I've done so. And I've said, okay, this type of gun and all this, and how does it go? Oh, it fires this many rounds and all this. I have an interesting story about Jaron. I'm going to put this out there. He does, bail bondsmen, people, skip bail, and they're oh, wait, we found this person. I'm here a couple years ago. There's a knock at my door. I look through, and there's 4 rather large black men with pistols strapped to their side in combat gear. They got those headbands, and I know what the name is. I'm trying to make it, those baklavas or what, balaclava. I know what it is. People who wear them and you call it a baklava, it pisses them off. It's funny as hell. And I open the door and I'm like, can I help you? And Jaron lifts his mat. I'm like, you son of a bitch. And I feel down my crotch to make sure I didn't piss myself. Seeing 4 well-armed African-American men at my door for no reason. I'm like, what the hell? What it was, Jaron was using his military experience, and he was basically a bail bondsman. And I guess there were 2 people bouncing checks, and they had guns and shit. And so after it was him and his brother John and 2 of their partners, I'm like, okay, what the hell are you here for besides, scared the living shit out of me? And he's like, well, this person is here. And it's Jaron using that military experience for this job. So, yeah. Military protocol, military customs. I'm going to contact Jaron. I'm like, okay, dude, I'm doing this here. I need, piss me an ocean on these things. Because, yeah, you can look it up. But if you have somebody who's lived it, that's even better. Because they know the rigmarole. They were there, boots on the ground, as it were. And Jaron was in 2 different military services, Army and Marines. Intermeeting time in National Guard, which is just your Army, but you're only doing it like maybe 1 weekend a month or whatever it is that the National Guard does. I don't know their protocol. I could ask Jaron. But yeah, that comes up under history and local because military history, it's, if you get a West Point graduate, they're going to know American military history. Or someone who's been through the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado, or Annapolis in Maryland, where Carrie and Matt live near. And don't come this time of year because it's, the naval stuff and, it's you can't get a hotel. Yeah, okay. But, yeah, history, geography, and local, it's very important to have people who know these things. And that helps a lot in settings that have... Well, see, it can work in fantasy games, too, because most fantasy games are set in a medieval period, usually anywhere from the 1000s to maybe the 1500s, through the Middle and Dark Ages into the early Renaissance. That's what most D&D style games are like. You have castles, you have knights, you have plate mail, you have swords, you've got British archers, you've got, the peasant class and the royalty, you have courtly intrigue. All this shit is extrapolated and based on our history, our European history. So, a history buff is good for, hell, Goth Bunny. Professor Pixie's mom has a bachelor's in history from the University of Toledo. Now, and I'm going to catch flack from this for busting Ohio's chops here. Oh, you got it from Ohio, so that it's an associate everywhere else. Oh, she just... Or what is the term that Colleen lovingly calls me? Fucking asshole. Yeah. That also has to do with Age of Ultron. That's another story for another time. But having somebody who has a bachelor's in history, matter of fact, Saturday game, I brought Colleen back in. She had to leave for 5 months because she had to drive Jeff to ref to and from work. Had to drop out of the game because she had to be up at fucking butt crackle early. Colleen got back in the game. I said, okay, I want to give you some agency in Diamond Lil's Return. This is my Saturday night bi-weekly pulp campaign. Two-fisted heroes, strong-jawed, and, your weird science and the occasional Nazi from 1924, the early years. 1924, the Munich beer hall putsch, where Adolf Hitler started riling shit up and he got 9 months in jail for it. So you have to consult history. I'm like, okay, we need something, and I want to start taking a supernatural. We've been doing too many weird pulp aliens. I want to bring it back down to earth and make it more supernatural based. Colleen just... The Glozell artifacts in France. I'm like, wait, what? Hold it. This is a thing? And so down that rabbit hole she and I went, and we're wait a minute, I was at her place. Her and Z's place, which is Casa de Geek 2.0. This is Command Central, Furs is Fur Nation, Jeff and Pixie, it's the Locked and Loaded. We all have names for our places. So I'm there at Casa de Geek 2.0, and I'm looking up the Glozell artifacts. And it's about this French farm in 1924. As a matter of fact, March 1st. A grandfather, Claude, and I'm blanking on the name. Oh my God. Claude and his grandson, Emile, are farming, and they have their cow with the plow, and the cow puts his foot through the ground and gets stuck. And they pull the cow's foot out. Steer, bovine, and fur's already busting my chops on it, and I just look at her and go, the bovine? Well, if it's a cow, it does this, and steer does... Well, you would know, Miss Farm Fresh. And, of course, I bust my girlfriend's chops about her coming from a small town and living out in farm country in the T area of, like, Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. So we're busting each other's chops about that. So she's going to pick me on that. That's another example of getting your stuff right about history and local stuff. Anyways, the Glozell artifacts, Claude and Emile died in 2010. Claude was already well, so he passed away, and Emile carried this on for most of the century. But they find this submerged chamber after they dig everything out, and it's got clay tiles all along the side with various glyphs, and there's like human remains down there, like bits of a skeleton, some clay pots. And after a while, Emile and Claude, they called in, a teacher from this big town, and then after a while, the French Ministry of Archaeology comes in, and they basically dug up this guy's farm. And they found, like, various... and it was a full-on archaeological dig in the mid-20s. Problem is, they're finding shit ranging from Neolithic era to the 1500s and these various things. And as I said, there's a museum now, and Emile... he had his whole thing with, what was it? He made a museum of all this. And I'm going to look it up now, because I did not think I was going to go there. The Glozell artifacts, yes, it's on, and as we do, the fountain of all knowledge and wisdom, Wikipedia. And yeah, this was a collection of over 3,000 artifacts, including clay tablets, sculptures, and vases, some of which were inscribed, discovered from 1924 to 1930 in the vicinity of the French hamlet of Glozell. It's part of the commune of the Ferreres-sur-Sichon in the Allier department, some 17 kilometers of Vichy in central France. It's about an hour south of Paris. And it's a farm village, it still is. Various related to, at times, Neolithic, Iron Age, and medieval times. Yeah, a lot of this they were saying, it's a hoax, these are fake and artifacts. Here's the thing about this. They're finding the runes and the glyphs. The symbols on the tablets are reminiscent of the Phoenician alphabet, but it's not conclusively deciphered. Let's see. Basque, Chaldean, Edo-Cretan, which is like early Crete, the Minoan civilization. Iberian, which is the northern part of Spain and Portugal, the Iberian Peninsula. Latin, Berber, North African. Ligurian, which I got to look that up what it is again. Near Milan and Turin in Italy. So northwestern Italy. Phoenician and Turkic, which is a base of languages in Eurasia. Turkish, we have to do it right. Turkish, because the official name of that country is now Turkiya. The Turkish people did not like it that the rest of the world was calling their country Turkey because of the fact of what most of the world thinks. It's either a bird or something that's bad. So it's like, you will call us Turkiya from now on. So the Turkish language. Let's get that right. I don't want to anger any of Turkish viewers out here. So these Glozell tablets, 100 of them were spread all throughout these various caves and chambers and everything. And so Colleen looked this up, and she knew this because she had a history degree from the University of Toledo. And now I've ran with it. I'm just like, okay, there's these chambers that are all over Europe, and one of them, you set an inscription on one of these tablets, and you're now in a fantasy world, which I put on the World of Tears. Yes, Farmer's World of Tears. That series. And so right now, my pulp characters are in this medieval realm in the back of 3 wagons heading toward a medieval city. Because they came out in another labyrinth on this world and were found by the army that was going to come in and clear this dungeon. And, oh yes, we learned the language after a month of studying your stuff, and we are from a strange land. And so, because of Goth Bunny's knowledge of this, having a history degree, I've added this whole new flair to my game, because I picked her brain, because I wanted... Her character had been gone for, 5 months real time. It was about a month game time. And so... Colleen, it really was a shot in the arm that she gave me this information to use. And I now have this whole new spin on this pulp campaign, because you have pulp things about, yeah, we got the two-fisted, the two-fisted monster, see, and now he's in, the kingdom of Valeria, and he has to pick up a sword now because he ran out of bullets for his Tommy gun, which that will be coming down the line. They have finite ammo on them. So this means that after a while they're going to be either using their fists or swords or whatnot. But because of Goth Bunny's knowledge of history, I brought that in, and now they're eating it up. They're having fun that we might be fighting a dragon with a Tommy gun. And it's all thanks to Goth Bunny. I love her dearly. There were times she and I butted heads, but for this, I love her dearly. And this is Breakman Z's fiance, Professor Pixie's mother. So, yeah, just knowing your history and your geography and stuff about local things, you can bring that real-world element to a game, and it just makes things pop. And then, of course, you just add that twist of the fantastic to it. Those Glozell artifacts are just clay pots and clay tablets. I said, no, they come from a magic realm, and those 10 languages I mentioned, it's a pigeon. And I put it on their character sheets as Magic World Common, because that's what they call it, the Magic World. And they also learn Basque. Basque is also spoken in the northern part of the Iberian, so very northern part of Spain, where it touches France. And it's the Iberian Mountains. If you have Spain like here, Portugal would be like over here on the Atlantic Ocean. So it's all up here where Basque is, and this is a bad geography lesson, but I can't put like a map here in front of you. So you have... They learn Basque as well, which is only spoken in the northern part of Spain. And it's his own language. They've tried to, the whole Indo-European language tree. Look it up. It's beautiful. It shows how languages have evolved and changed. Basque is not connected to any of them. They've tried to linguistically link it to everything, and they're like, this is its own language. It just sprung up on its own. It has no links to Spanish. It has no links to Portuguese. It has no links to France. It's its own phonetic, syntax, etymological, everything. So you have... private drama, looking it up, something good happened. So you have... The characters now know this language as well as this pigeon language from this fantasy world, which is based on real-world languages. Some of them are thousands of years old. As I said, Edo-Cretan. That's like pre-Minoan Crete language. Again, Crete is that little island. You know, the Minotaur, the labyrinth, Greek mythology that will tie in, that ties into this too. Knowing your mythology. And that is dependent on geography. And remember, we have pantheons all over the world. We've got various Native American. We have Greek, Roman, Norse, Babylonian, Chinese, Japanese, and you get your creatures from that too. The Japanese have their Oni, their Kappa, Yao Guai in China, Kitsune in Japan, Gumio in Korea. Now, they're still both Kitsune, it's Kumihyo, but that K is pronounced as a G, so it's Gumio. They're the same as the Japanese Kitsune, the fox people they're tricksters, and the nine-tailed fox, Naruto, all that, yeah. So your mythology is based on regions. So if you want to add stuff to your game, and I'm looking here, we're about ready to go into the third topic, mythology could fall into that also, your history, geography, and local stuff. Because I did my Bureau 13 game I ran a couple years back. 2 Saturday games ago? Yeah. You went to New Jersey and they fought the Jersey Devil. If you look up the Jersey Devil in the drawings, that's like a D&D Paraton, where it is a deer's head on a giant eagle's body. That's what the Jersey Devil looks like. And, yeah, cryptozoology, that also is linked into regions. Every damn state in this country has some type of cryptid. And I will recommend a wonderful podcast to you. It is done by a friend of mine who I've interviewed on the Gaming on the Frontier. Her name is Shetan Noir. Shetan Noir. Noir. And she does a semi-regular podcast called Into the Liminal Abyss. She is a local cryptozoologist who goes all over the Midwest and talks about Bigfoot and all that. Yeah. And the Great Lakes have a lot of cryptozoology things that you can tap into. But if you do research on cryptids, there's one in every state in this union. From New England all the way down to the Southwest, to Deep South, Pacific Northwest, Alaska, and Hawaii. Every state in this country has some type of cryptid. And so you could use that in your game. Like, yeah, I'm down in Georgia. There is a north-south river, and I forget what it is. It's in the western part of Georgia, and it comes down from like the Calhoun area, Calhoun, Georgia, where Mohawk carpeting is made. Had to research that for another game. That's more research of the local area. And there's a sea serpent in this river down in Georgia. So mythology and cryptozoology can also be used in this. If you do your research and you're running like an urban fantasy game like Bureau 13, oh no, you could I threw in my Maze World game that I did with Perky Goth. I threw in, stuff down in Georgia. In the Bureau 13 game, they're the Jersey Devil, a Paraton from D&D. You can look it up in a bestiary or in a monster manual. So having people who know about this stuff is what helps you, because you can consult. Yeah, I lived in Jersey for a while. Pick their brain. Yeah, I lived in, Carson City for 5 years out in Nevada. Pick their brain. Carson City is a beautiful city, by the way. I researched that for a previous Bureau 13 camp. It's a beautiful place. You people in Carson City have a wonderful city. All right. We've gotten that out of the way. Now we're going to start getting... It's a little less real stuff, but you have these people in a game too. Now, in a previous episode, I talked about converting intellectual properties, things like Harry Potter, Star Wars, Star Trek, Farscape, Game of Thrones. You're going to have your setting SMEs. Now, there are settings that I use regularly. If you've gamed with me, I'm going to try to throw in Protoculture into a Fartech thing. I have Robotech campaigns. I've done Star Wars, Star Trek. Farscape I'd like to do. Problem is I'm not going to use that AEG book because it kind of sucked. You guys kind of dropped the ball on that one. You're going to have your setting SMEs, people who are geeks for intellectual properties. Pixie is into Star Wars and Harry Potter, as is Jeff DeReff. I had to research the shit out of Harry Potter because Jeff wanted to play a Death Eater who came through the fringe paths and is hiding from his world and now is with this Robotech urban fantasy campaign. And he was an asshole, but he was our asshole. We came to love him even though he was a brutal... And Jeff played him as a brutal son of a bitch. It was a Death Eater from Harry Potter. He didn't play around. It's like, okay, we can, interrogate you. But we can let him, and he's there in the full Death Eater and just starts doing the shit, and we walk out of the room. And it's that scene in movies where you close the door and you hear the guy screaming his head off. Because and I had to sit there and read up on Harry Potter big time. Not the whole series. There, again, wikis are your friend. But if you're going to use intellectual property, make fucking sure that there is not a bigger fan than you, or they will call you on your shit. Now, I'm trying to recall, was there somebody... Okay, also, Jeff did a Skyrim campaign, which things happened and it didn't work out, but I did the spinoff, and that's the Sunday game I'm doing now. We have 2 catfolk from Skyrim, and then my Bureau 13 Unida Fringeworthy character was there, and they discovered it, and now they've all been shunned into the Amethyst setting, so it's a spin-off game. But I have had to ask Jeff and Josie about Skyrim stuff, because when we were all planning that campaign, I didn't know about it. I don't play video games. My video gaming is from the Atari 2600. That's how bad I'm dating myself. Y'all know what? Ask your parents or your grandparents when the Atari 2600 come out. Oh, Jesus Christ, Trav's old. I'm 54, man. Come on. So you have setting SMEs. Now, if you want to bring a setting in because you know that person over there, yeah, they're going to like this. They get to play in the setting that they see in TVs and movies. Pick their brain. Now, yeah, they might direct you to a wiki, but you get it from a fan, you're going to get a whole different level of love, and they're going to make sure that they will make sure you do it as correct as possible. Matter of fact, remember, wikis are not perfect. They're great, but there are times that some people have dropped the ball. And also, you might get a different interpretation than from what's on a wiki. You get a fan in it, you're going to get the love from it. As I said, Star Trek, of course, Jeff DeReff, huge. Star Wars, his wife, Professor Pixie, because she knows it from, the original movies, and games like Knights of the Old Republic. I did a deep question, and it was so funny. Years ago, I'm there with Goth Bunny and Jeff DeReff and Pixie, and we're all talking. And I decided I'm going to throw a curveball at her about Star Wars. I'm OG. I was there in 1977, the old Wayne Drive-In in Wayne, Michigan. I was there when it came out. May 1977. I was 8. My dad took me and my brother and sister to see Star Wars, and it changed my life. Yeah. And so I decided to go deep. What's the name of the race of the Cantina musicians? Oh, they're the Biff. Gothic. How the fuck do you know? I'm like, you're in. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna do this. Yeah. No, she knows. It's like not many people know the name of that race from that music, the Cantina music. Those 4 white big-headed musicians in episode 4 of New Hope, they're known as the Biff. Their race. I didn't think Josie would know that, so she called me on it. So yeah, I've since run Star Wars campaigns. I'm like, hey, Pix, about this, what was this about the Jedi 20,000 years ago, from the Tales of the Jedi? Oh, well, it's this and this and this, and this particular Darth did this. Okay, thank you. So, setting is very important. And us role players, we have our favorite settings. I ran a game, and it was, again, Will. I was running sort of a superhero game. It started out on the Traveler's Earth, but I had to move it to another one. And he comes in a game, and it's his first game. And this is before we got Zen into it. I say, okay, what type of character do you want to play here? I mean, these are humans that are going to be augmented with nanotechnology. Alien nanotech. I want to be a CIA spook like John Reese. I'm like, who? Down the rabbit hole I went with Person of Interest. One of my favorite series. It was wonderful. Jim Caviezel and Michael Emerson. Jim Caviezel, he's currently in the movie Sound of Freedom. He was also in the movie Frequency with Dennis Quaid. Michael Emerson, Ben Ellis from Lost, and he's now in the series Evil on CBS with Luke Cage, Mike Coulter. Wonderful actor, both of them. And Person of Interest, it's about AIs and national and personal security, and science fiction became science fact. I mean, it was a procedural. You had the CIA spook and a reclusive billionaire with access to his AI that he sold to the government, but still, and it was Social Security numbers. So you had to do the research to find out if they were the victim or the perpetrator of whatever crime that was, because Michael Emerson's character, Harold, last name's all based on birds. So you never, Finch is what he was known as. So he got these social security numbers every night, and then they were erased. So he brought on John Reese, and again, pseudonym, he was a CIA spook trying to hide, to help either save victims or stop perpetrators. And so in order to make Will's character Ghost, who was a CIA spook, and he had the martial arts and the guns, and he could phase through stuff, and yeah. I had to learn about Person of Interest and how this John Reese character acted. And I'm not crazy about Jim Caviezel's politics, but I love the character John Reese. So I had to do research, and Will filled me in. Oh, yeah, I saw the series. It does this. Yeah, this is in season 2, episode. So, yeah, I picked his brain, and then I watched the episode, and I got fur hooked on it. She's like, thanks, you asshole. Now I'm watching the series. You're welcome, dear. You said you misspoke. Thank you. It came out like you asshole, and I'm wondering why, because it's a wonderful series. So, yeah, settings. Intellectual properties, picking the brains of people in your group. And as I said, you got Star Wars, Star Trek, Farscape, Battlestar Galactica. I'm not keen on the new one because when David Icke said, we're going to sex Battlestar Galactica up, you just lost a prospective viewer. I'm old school. I'm Lorne Green, the chimpanzee in the dog suit, boxy, Galactic 1982, Dirk Benedict with the cigar, the original Starbuck. I'm that. It's like that new one. I'm like, no, just... You ruined it for me. But Stargate, as I said, AEG, if you have a fan of Stargate, pick their brain. Because if you're running some type of campaign like that, you're going to want to pick their brain. Well, Stargate, they did this, and in season 8 they did this, and they had these aliens, and yeah. I have my own issues about Stargate, having been a Tritech employee. We might get into that later, too. But yeah, setting... If you are running intellectual property, you're going to get the love from fans of it. And as I said, you can look up a wiki, find that, but it's cold and personal. You're reading words of some. You get somebody who's into a setting. Oh no! Learn about Harry Potter and Skyrim. Jeff DeRef, he's here on Twitch too. Jeff DAREF. Jeff DeRef, Pixie's husband. No, we're sitting there playing the Skyrim campaign. And I'm starting to get involved in it. I ain't played these games at all, none of them. But I'm starting to get interested because I'm seeing the depth of the Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, Morrowind, all this. And just how much love Bethesda, I want to say, did the game, put into this, and just how far. And it's a longitudinal history. You got centuries of game. Oh, this game is in the First Age, and this is the Fourth Age. Fourth Age 29, I think the Eldamar Empire fell, and then, they fought for 40 years, and because I have 2 Khajiit in that Sunday game, Breakman Z plays a caravan guard named Dalsa, basically our sniper. And then Michael plays a catfolk Khajiit necromancer, and I want to be 3 feet tall, so I had to find a way to make him 3 feet tall. And yeah, it's growling and purring, but his name translates out to Captain Buttercup. And I'm like, being called that, I can see why win a necromancy. That must have pissed you off them picking on you. No, it's just a name I picked, but the growling, that's what it translates out to. But because they're both from Nirn, the world that Skyrim is on, I have to have the Skyrim wiki up at all times. But when I was helping Jeff make the campaign, it was about 3 weeks, and it died out a little bit. Amber and I had to leave. We brought Michael in, and then later when Jeff quit the campaign, we brought Zia in, and Fur was in until this past week. But getting Jeff's views on Skyrim and then adding my own GM experience, there's a big black map of Skyrim that comes with the games. We had it laid out on Jeff's table in his living room in his trailer. And we had no way to determine distances between cities and everything. None. I mean, there's no legend on the map like, 1 inch equals 100 miles. No, there was nothing. And then Jeff popped out this one bit of advice. This one thing he heard. Yeah, from this fort to this city is 50 miles. Pulled out this motherfucking ruler right here. And I said, okay, 50 miles. Boom. Okay, that's like maybe 10 centimeters. Okay, we have this. So we're going to break this down. If 10 centimeters is 50 miles, 1 centimeter is 5 miles on this map. You just found out distances between everything. And because Jeff had that missing, he didn't put together, he now realized he had everything. He could sit there and plan this campaign. Oh, from Sarthal to Winterhold is 50 miles. By the system that he gave me. I said it's the same distance. And yes, I've had to do research with this because we've gamed in Winterhold when Jeff started this campaign. Winterhold has the School of Winterhold and the little abandoned town. It's sort of the Nords are there. And 50 miles, and it's west-southwest of Winterhold, is Sarthal, where one of the dragon words is. And so because it was connected Fringe, where the Fringe portal was in this cave that's there. And we also found, for Skyrim, and with all the various parts from the games denoted, I sent this to Jeff, and it's like Google Maps. Somebody did a lot of fucking work for this. They put the entire thing of Skyrim on a Google Maps scale where you have, it doesn't have a legend for size, but you can shrink, the plus and minus if you go to Google Maps. And it'll shrink down, and then it'll open up. Okay, yeah, here's Sarthal, and here, this other little point is where you find the dragon word. Oh, and you go over here, go up northeast to Winterhold. Oh, here's the Council of Winterhold. Here's the bridge you got to cross over, where, oh, God, I want to say the Day of Red something, where basically half of Winterhold fell into the damn ocean due to a volcano. Oh, here's the Jarl's Longhouse, and here's this store, general store, and here's some houses, and here's a house where you get this quest. And so it's all there on this map. And this person, whoever did this, did a lot of work on this. So when Jeff and I was consulting Jeff on, with helping him with the Skyrim campaign, then afterwards the spin-off campaign, which has gone wonderfully. And I regret that it just didn't work out for Jeff, and I hope he doesn't take this as a bad thing. As far as, I'm not going to GM again. No, the stars went right. Just rework the campaign, and it might be useful later. But I can also give him the information I've made based on my stuff and hand over the folder. Okay, here you go. Here's more stuff I found. But consulting your players on doing something like this means you're going to get that love. Let's see, a setting. Oh, okay, setting, character. Kamen Rider. Japanese, it's the, Sentai, but there's another Tatakatsuku or something like, I forget the term. But basically, Kamen Rider, he does, and he's got the belt and he transforms into the Sentai superhero. Z played one, and he wanted to play one. And so because I wanted to know how the belts worked and what this, I had to pick his brain on, okay, we're going to make this character. Piss me an ocean on this. I could look it up on a wiki, but I want your interpretation of this thing. And Kamen Rider is even good because they have a guy in a wheelchair, and now when he hits the belt, it turns into this like dragster long, but it's still a wheelchair, and he'll so you have your inclusivity there concerning disabilities. So I'm like, Z put that, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that is neat. I like that. Because usually you don't get very many handicapped heroes or people with disabilities. It's very rare, and they come up as token. They did this well. They didn't make it hokey or anything. But so I picked, because I wanted Z's experience in this game playing this Kamen Rider to be, and it was. He played it wonderfully. But I still needed to be able to, what's the word I'm looking for? Bring it to the rules in order to, real quick, gotta say goodnight to the girlfriend because she's going to bed. Okay. I had to know how to bring this into my campaign and make it where he could play it and it would feel like I'm playing a Kamen Rider, yeah. So I had to pick his brain on this. Even though he brought me the idea, I want to play this guy. Well, I still need to make it fit into OGL stats and all this. How do you transform into these different monsters and beings with this belt? I had to do all that, which means I talked to him. I prefer talking to a fan than just, wikis are great, but again, you get the love of the game, love of that art, love of that setting. And Kamen Rider is a setting, yeah, because there's been like 9, 10 series about it. In Japan, they'll reboot something constantly. Excuse me. So you have setting issues and, let's see. My girlfriend Fur does a lot of settings and whatnot. She's done, in the Friday game, she plays Hunter Dies from Netflix's Marco Polo. She played an armorer from Star Wars, and I'd put in a Star Trek game, because she knows nothing about Star Trek, but she loves Star Wars. There was a scene in episode 9, we thought, there was a shuttle explosion, and she's texting me about it. So, it's like how guys get with football games when they fuck up a play. She's like that about Star Wars. She loves The Mandalorian, so, okay, you can play an armor. So, I had to consult her in order to say, okay, based on what you've seen, what do you want to be able to do with this character? And also, in the Sunday game that she had to leave due to personal reasons, I had to consult, and thankfully I liked it. It's the setting of The Protector, the Turkish Netflix series, which a guy with a 500-year-old magical talismanic shirt is now invulnerable, and he has to set out to kill immortals trying to take over Istanbul. So it's a modern-day Turkish superhero. So I had to sit there, and this was more because I had to say, okay, honey, do you remember what episode Hakan did this? And so I had to, because the wiki's not all that good. So I had to pick her brain because she remembered, oh yeah, I've seen the series again since we watched it. Okay, what did Hakan do with this? Could he survive this type of fall? Bullets bounce off him? Yeah. So having Fur play characters based on settings, I'm spraying on my laptop here. Gotta wash that saliva down with some nice red wine here in a second. So, settings aren't just like, oh, the entire Star Wars universe, the entire Star Trek universe, or just the Kelvin universe. It's also characters in a setting. You still have to study the setting in order to get the character right and pick the brain of the person who wants to play it, because it's not just the setting, it's how they see the setting. And in order to get to make it where they want to play this character in the setting, there are times you have to change the setting. There is no Istanbul left in the Amethyst setting. So I had to move it to a giant and a tech bastion. It's like a megalopolis. It basically was Portugal. They just call it Porto. So I said, okay, what we're going to do. They recreated the Great Bazaar from Istanbul from historical records, and it's now a part of Porto. So you have that, and they speak the language that Turkish evolved from 500 years later, which I believe they just call it Slavic. Your character, Slavic is their first tongue. Inglés is the second tongue because it's all the Spanish, romantic, Latin-based languages. It's a pidgin 500 years later. So I had to adapt the setting to bring the character in. But I still had to talk to Fur about, okay, the things we saw this shirt bestows upon Hakan Demir. What we saw, bullets bounce off him. He survived a 4-story jump off a building. He went through fire and there wasn't a problem. These things based on the shirt, and then I had to convert to rules. And this shirt is an epic level artifact. There's no other way you can make it. So you have consulting about setting. That is something better you do before the game, because usually you're not going to bring in a setting. I don't think anyone's ever brought in a setting on a fly. You research it, which means, as I said, wikis are good. People who know about it are better. Again, you get the love. And like I said, I got people who are into Harry Potter, Star Wars, Star Trek. First played another one. Okay, so Hakan. Oh! Fur's original character idea was Micheletto Corelli from the Borgias with Jeremy Irons. Now, this guy was a sick son of a bitch. He was an assassin dutifully employed by the son, one of the Borgias, of Jeremy Irons' character, who was a pope, and he was of the Borgia family. So there's a lot of papal politics and shit and dealing. And so this Micheletto, he was a messed up individual. He's based on historical, but he was a messed up individual. killed his own father because Micheletto was gay. The father didn't like it. Killed his own father and then had sex with another guy on the father's tombstone. I'm like, okay, this guy's messed up. He is lawful evil. We're just going to put that right there. So I'm watching a few episodes of this with Fur to get a feel for this character, and eventually she used 100 Eyes from Netflix's Marco Polo. We watched that and said, oh, no, I want to play him. But still, I had to get, and it's even just seeing the reaction of, if you're watching the setting with someone else, like you're watching with your girlfriend, you want to see the reaction, how this character acts. Because you're trying to get that same reaction out of the players. When Micheletto does something, you want the players to go, son of a bitch, this guy's a sick bastard. He's our sick bastard, but he's our last resort. So consulting people on settings is very important because you want to see the reactions of how they love these characters in this setting. If somebody were to run a Farscape game for me, I would be like, okay, no, John Crichton does this, and he's obsessed with wormholes, and he loves Aaron, but he has his family back home that he's trying to get because he misses them. He does these pop culture references because it's his ties to Earth, and they're going to see that, oh no, this guy's a fan. I was watching this back in '99. My second wife got me hooked on it. I've got everything on DVD. I have the role-playing book and all the stuff that AEG printed out when they had the license. So they're going to see, oh no, this is... I mean, there's a Farscape wiki. It's a beautiful wiki. Because they've also included all the Boom Comics comic books, which Rockne S. O'Bannon, the creator of Farscape, said, nope, this is all canon. Erin is now a priestess of the pre-Peacekeeper Sebacean goddess, and Bylar Crace, his parents, sold him to slavery, and they followed this goddess. They just kept it quiet. They worshipped this goddess secretly because they didn't want the peacekeepers kicking in their door for being, heretics. Not following the peacekeeper way of life, but following this old Sebacean goddess that Erin is now a priestess of. And also, Dargo Soon Crichton has the uncontrollable ability of popping people through unrealized realities. I have more than a few issues of Farscape where Crichton has come into timelines where, Einstein popping him through time. The Unrealized Reality episode, season 4. And right there you can tell I'm a fan, but I know it that well. The actor's name was John Bach, who played him. Crichton's popping into unrealized realities where Dargo's still alive, Zan's still alive, Princess Katrala and him are in love, Aaron got killed off early. And so Dargo Soon Crichton, John and Aaron's baby, the fact that, popping through unrealized realities and taking people with him, or sending them there and then bringing them back on his own, that Rockne S. O'Bannon said, this is all canon. These comic books are all canon. I have no problem with it, and so has it been said by the creators, so shall it be done. So, somebody comes to me, you want to play in a Farscape game? First of all, I said, I would need time to do it. I run 4 campaigns. And also, I've been game mastering now for like almost 15 years where I rarely play. I tried playing, I can't do it anymore. But if somebody were to come to me and say, hey, Trav, you want to be in a Farscape campaign? And I need to be there when? Because I will piss them an ocean. I will give them the deep dirt, the shit that I found. Because if you're a fan of a setting, you're going to go for those. Well, some people go for deep stuff and behind-the-scenes stuff. We won't mention any name, Jeff Ruff, who, I get him on the behind-the-scenes stuff. And he's getting better because he's realized some of the behind-the-scenes shit is cool. But again, Jeff will tell me what episode the TR-116 came in and who used it and who was made by. And But you see when you interview a player and they talk about the setting, they light up. And as a GM, you want them to be able to light up when you run this campaign with this setting that they love. If you're not getting that same... When you talk to them, and when you put this out on the table and they aren't giving you that same look of, I'm in the game, man, I'm in the show. As Uncle Roger says, you fucked up. So you need to get... When you consult a player on a setting that you're going to use, watch them. And then try to get them, once you do your research to bring the setting into your game, watch them to see if they still have that same fire that they gave you when they told you about it. Because that means you did it. Your game is now fire because the fan likes it. They will sit there and go, yeah, oh no. Yeah, Trav made the Peacekeeper command carrier. Yeah, it's got all the weapons on it and everything, and it carries all these prowlers. He nailed it. It's because you helped me with that. I have you to thank for doing that. Yeah. Yeah, I got to play a Death Eater, and I found the fire spell that, went through the piles of furniture. I saw the clip on, I forget what Harry Potter movie it was. But, Jeff, I said, okay, I need to see this fire spell that you're doing. And it's the one where this giant fire snake is weaving through all these piles of wood furniture, and all the various characters are trying to climb up to get the hell out of there. And, of course, the Trinity, Harry, Hermione, and Ron are running out of there, and I think there was a Malfoy trying to get up there, and somebody got killed. But I'm looking and I go, that's the fire snake spell from Pathfinder. I just had to boost it because the fire snake spell wasn't the same. It was, 25 feet. No, this thing was going through hundreds of feet and weaving through and catching all these piles of wood. So I had to really up my game on that and augment the spell. But when I did it, Jeff told me later, oh no, you got it. That's exactly, you got exactly what I showed you in that clip. So Jeff's, the eyes went wide when I showed, okay, this is what happened, and I saw the look on his face. And it's like, Trav nailed it. Because I consulted him. I wanted, okay, show me something of this movie that has this thing so I can envision it. And I nailed it. And I enjoyed running Jimmy in the game. And then later, Jeff wanted to play Klingon Borg, and they have him in Voyager. Look it up, and it was Tatel, 24 of 48, but of the house, and I forget what house. But I had to make a Klingon Borg, and so I picked Jeff's brain. Okay, what are the things the Borg can do? And Borg drones are very powerful, so this was already like a level 15 character. I was bringing him in. He wanted to retire Jimmy. The plot line was played out, and so Jimmy left. But so we had to make a Klingon Borg. In the Robotech Nightbane game. I do these type of sandbox games where it's everything everywhere. So I'm having to pick his brain going, okay, Borgs, what all can they do? I need to know. And you're not going to get all this stuff right away. We can say that all this stuff is slowly coming back online as we disconnect you from the collective. You're not going to get them all right away. That's not going to happen. Again, you're not going to convert something 100%. We've been through this already in converting IPs. But I had to sit there and pick Jeff's brain. It's like, and yeah, I could read the stuff on the wiki, but I wanted to get his interpretation on it, what he wanted to do with the character. So, yeah, you getting that fire from them, capturing the fire they give you about a setting when you consult them, will put fire in the game. And yeah, this is going to be a thing, making your games fire. It's that newfangled slang you kids use. And it's funny because I got 30-year-olds. Yeah, that Panera's broccoli cheddar soup, it's fire. It's money. I'm like, okay, that also. I'm thinking, okay, that means it's good too. Okay, yeah. So, setting, consulting your players on setting, very important. You got to get that. You got to get that light in their eyes when they talk about it, because if you get it where they do it again when you run it, you've nailed it. The final topic. This one's a little meta because it doesn't do with what's in the game. It has to do with what makes the game. As much as I'd like to say I know everything about OGL and game mastering, there are just certain people that know the rules better than I do. Carrie Moyer, I'm looking at you. If you have a player in your game that knows the rule mechanics better than you, that can be helpful. Because let's say they bring in something new to the game, and a lot of times certain people, again, Carrie, who bring in things, there are certain publications, they are no longer allowed in my game. Mr. Steve Kenson, one of the creators of Mutants and Masterminds, probably the premier OGL superhero game, did a book called The Psychic's Handbook from Green Ronin Press. And I have nothing against Mr. Kenson. I hope to meet him someday. He puts out incredible stuff. I'm not keen on how Mutants and Monsters works. I use other superhero things, but that's fine. But still, the stuff he puts out is wonderful. I can no longer use his Psychic's Handbook because it broke one of my campaigns. It was an early attempt to bring Robotech into a game, people thrown together through bad circumstances and they have to work together as a team. It was called the Furies. And Carrie made a psionic race called the Avachail from her Shar-Tyr homebrew setting. She's using the Irien, another homebrew race from the Shar-Tyr setting in my Friday Hardwired Hinterlands campaign, first playing Hunter Dice. So Every time Carrie brings in something new, I got to read up on the rules, or I got to talk to her because, okay, it's this whole new rule set. And now, because she's using a new rule set in our next game, she is officially my co-GM because there's a thing of rules. I said, I need you to do it. It's new rules. I'm reading these and they're just blurring. I can't. You are, yeah, because it was her and my campaign idea. We just meshed them together. I want to run a Mary Sue campaign. I want to run The Last Reality Night Finds New People. How about they be Mary Sue's of Us? Boom. Synergy. We have it. You're my assistant GM. And we both wonder why we didn't do this earlier. Carrie is the one person who probably knows D20 better than I do. We do what is called PDF porn. Oh, look, I found this. I got this. Here's a copy. Yeah, I found this. And we've got a Google Drive. And so, yeah, it's our PDF porn. Fur gets it. Matt gets it. The others, these two with their fucking PDF porn. Yeah, it's because we're finding cool shit to do. Item creation rules for Pathfinder, we broke that system. Me and my two friends, Thomas Hone and Eric the Enabler, spar. Thomas Hone is the oldest son of my former neighbor she was down there, and co-creator of my show, the Travcast, on DementiaRadio.org, Bad Kitty, so he is known as Bad Kitty's eldest. They broke the wealth system in D20 Modern because they know the rules that well and know all the loopholes. So having players who know the mechanics better than you and then explain them to you, you can bring these mechanics into your game and expand the game. Now, as a GM, there is a problem. You need to adjudicate that some rules may break your game. Refer back to the comments I just made about the Psychic Handbook by Mr. Steve Kenson. Again, a great product, it's from 3.0 D&D, and it's skill-based psionics. Oh, you have a telepathy skill, and you have a remote viewing skill, and you have, a telekinesis and a cryokinesis, and a time stop skill. And then she's throwing in the feats that give bonuses based on intelligence and wisdom. If you, AEG has 3 feats: Applied Scholastics, Knowledge of the Sages, and Wisdom of the Ages. I believe the first 2, character level 9th, intelligence 17, 20 ranks, and at least 3 knowledge skills. If you have this, now if you have both Applied Scholastics and Knowledge of the Sages, any skill 0 or 1 ranks, you get your intelligence modifier. 2 or more ranks, you get double your intelligence modifier. If you only have one or the other, it's half that. So half the intelligence mod or the full intelligence mod. So there's that. Wisdom of the Ages is you have to be middle-aged for your race. Wisdom is 17, and one other prerequisite. And it's 0 or 1 ranks, half your wisdom mod, 2 ranks or higher, your full wisdom mod. Carrie will jack up her character with cybernetics and manuals of enhanced strength and have like 30 stats for intelligence and wisdom and get those 2 feats. And then she's got skills in the 50s. There are certain feats I no longer allow used because Ms. Moyer, I adore her. I consider her one of my friends. She was my roommate's old girlfriend for a while. They're still friends. But she breaks my games. And so I got to come up with more and more powerful shit to take her characters out. Or at least give her a fighting chance. Problem is, she has to end up resurrecting the rest of the party because, I survived. Oh, crap. That's my friend's tooth over there. So, you need to, if you have somebody in your game who knows the rule set better than you and you're trying to gym because you want to tell a story. But you have this person that's on the other side of your screen who has better knowledge of the rules. Pick their brain. And there are times you may have to draft them as, okay, I need you to adjudicate this part of combat and tell me what the rules are. Now, there are times where you forget rules because the libations are flowing fast and furious. I was running a solo campaign with Bad Kitty's eldest one time. And it was before Pathfinder cleaned up the combat maneuver rules. If you remember the 3035 D&D rules for grappling, they were not easy. I think there might have been sacrifice of a chicken somewhere involved. We're not bad-mouthing Santeria or anything before anybody starts up. Just don't give me well, you're picking on religion. No, I'm using it as a reference. The rules for grappling in 3035 were ridiculous. And Bad Kitty's eldest kind of makes his drinks a little strong. So after my third or fourth one, what's the damn grapple rule again, Tommy? Well, you got to do this and this. And I'm sitting there writing it down. He's laughing at me. And he goes, you're cut off. I said, you're the one mixing the drinks, motherfucker. So you need to have somebody at your gaming table. And it was in between Tommy. I was running a solo campaign, and then I brought other people in, and we had a full group again. So having someone who knows the rules better than you it's not a hindrance. And if you can pick their brains, it's like, okay, this new ability that you're bringing in, explain it for everybody else, or this new concept, or this new weapon, or this new system of magic you want to use, or this system of psionics. Picking their brains will help you eventually understand it, or you draft them to run that part of the game, and you can get away with bringing new stuff to the game. The Arcforge series by Legendary Games, and because, okay, the Pathfinder World of Galarian, you have Numeria where, a capital ship crashed thousands of years ago in this barbarian land, and now you either have barbarians or you've got robots from an alien world. So Pathfinder really brought in D&D type games technology of the Force. So all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, you can actually have laser pistols in a Pathfinder game on Galarian if you go to Numeria? So there's a lot of third-party stuff for Pathfinder First Edition that they had to really step up their tech game. Now, the technology guide in Pathfinder, it started item creation. You can make tech items. You can make tech arms and armor. You can make cybernetics. You can make pharmaceuticals. Modern-day drugs. Like, I need to make this combat drug. Do you have a lab? No. Okay, then you have this, you know it, but you have all theoretical knowledge. And you find a lab. Okay, I start making this combat drug I want to do. And then you got your fighters all twitching and everything, killing everything in sight because they got, they're hopped up on, combat drugs. There is, and I will bring it up here, and I know I'm not going to get sued for using the likeness. It is this book here. It is called Arcforge Technology Expanded by Matt Daly and Michael Sayre. Legendary Games. It is PF1E convertible. And they blew open tech rules for Pathfinder First Edition. You now have feats like Field Mechanic. You don't need a lab anymore. It's just +5 to the DC. And here's something that this rule... I mentioned earlier that Carrie and I broke item creation for Pathfinder 1E, Magic, Psi, or Tech. It's because I've picked her brain, and she'll offer rules, and I pick her brain, okay, what does this mean? Between Akashic Magic from Akashic Mysteries by Dreamscarred and a rule saying, no, you can use Akasha as cybertech from that book I just showed you, Technology Expanded by Legendary Games, the Arcforge series, and there's like 9 books. 3 are rules, the other 6 are the setting to use them in, which is called Vandara. It's the system that has this silicon aura around it. You can't teleport off, there's no planar stuff. So you're trapped on this world, and they have magic and psi and mechs and high tech and pharmaceuticals, and they've got this thing called the Arcforge, which can just constantly make mechs for this nation. And they'll sell some mechs to others, but keep the good stuff for themselves. So they upped the tech rules, and so Carrie and I are sitting there, we broke item creation. The Master Craftsman feat in Pathfinder First Edition. You can kind of make tech items. Yeah, I think the only prerequisite, you have to have 5 ranks in a craft or profession skill. Like craft bow maker or profession brewer. You use that skill that you have the 5 or more ranks in as your skill to make magic items, and it's supposed to imply that they're not magical. So medieval level tech. You made this device and it's got reagents and alchemical reagents, and it's kind of like a wand, and you can say it's an alchemical flamethrower. In that Technology Expanded, they have another feat that Master Craftsman is the prereq for, called Ingenious Craftsman. It says, hi, any magical, any item creation feats you have, if it's magic, you can make it a tech device. If it's a tech device, you can make it magic. Then you throw in ultimate psionics, and they're psionic items, where because a lot of the feats that you have for magical item creation, oh no, like rod, no, that's this, and a staff is this, and a ring is a power stone, and so basically, between Ultimate Psionics by Dreamscarred Press, the Pathfinder Technology Guide from Paizo, and Legendary Games Arcforge Technology Expanded, you have Master Craftsman, which counts as Craft Wondrous Item and Craft Magic Arms and Armor. Then you get Ingenious Craftsman. You now can make magic, tech, and psi-based items. In my game, it's like you've broke the code. You know the grand unified theory. Magic, tech, and psi, you know how to interchange between them. You could sit there and make a psi-tech device, like the big helmets you see in comics. Oh, yes, and it expands my mental capacity. You can make fucking Cerebro. So, those two feats, you can make any type of item. Magic, psi, tech. If you use the D20 modern stuff, D20 future stuff where it says, oh, yeah, you have... if you want to make it biotech, you just add 3 to the cost. It's up 1 tech level, and it's like +3 or +5 to your wealth score. So now you can also make biotech stuff of magic, psi, and tech items. So you put all those rules together. If you got players who know this, and you want to, okay, I really want to expand. And so this means knowledge or brew potion is akin to craft pharmaceutical. Craft cybernetics it's this feat, and I forget where it is. It's in some legendary games thing called Demon Grafter. I also use the old Perpetrated Press Arsenal and Factory. You need to go to a used gaming store to get those. They're not even, you can't find them like on Pirate Bay or all the, and we don't condone piracy here. It happens, but we don't condone it here. And that's all magical cybernetics. So you've got this magical gem arm that, you got grafted to you because you got it, the dragon bit it off, and you now have this dwonetic arm. They call magical cybernetics dwonetics in these books. And they have magical and psionic firearms. Now, the psionic firearms, they're based on the powers that would eventually be in Ultimate Psionics, but they look like bugs that you press a nodule on them and they spit out the power. In other words, living bio-psi-tech is what I call it. So technically, if you had Master Craftsman and Ingenious Craftsman, you could make a normal automatic pistol, a magical pistol that can shoot a lightning bolt, gunsmithing, because that's right up there with craft tech arms and armor. Gunsmithing, the feat from the gunslinger class in Ultimate Combat Pathfinder, that's there. The psionic firearms from Arsenal by Perpetrated Press. Universal arm or psionic arms and armor from you can do all these things if you put those rules together, and it's like, I'm making it, I can make it psi, but I made it tech, or I made it biotech, or I made it magic. And when you put those two feats together, because Master Craftsman counts as Craft Wondrous Item and Craft Magic Arms and Armor, that means you can now craft, before you add all this other stuff, you can craft Tech Arms and Armor and Tech Item, and with Ultimate Psionics, craft a Universal Item and Psionic Arms and Armor. So having your characters bring in those things, you as a GM have to make sure that it doesn't break your game. And unfortunately, if you don't do that, you will end up with a broken game. And there are a lot of times I've had to say, okay, I use in this game, but not this game. Why? Certain people are in the game, and they've broken my game. As I said, Mr. Kenson, I enjoy your work, but I'm never using the Psychic's Handbook again. Nothing personal, but it broke a game of mine. And again, that's on me, but still, So, consulting your players on rules, mechanics, and okay, this is we have stuff here in the game, in the tabletop role playing game community called Crunch and Fluff. Fluff would be about the settings I just mentioned. Crunch is your game mechanics. Roll these dice to get this result. How many skill ranks you have, what feats. That's the crunch. Oh, well, the history of this spacefaring race was for 500 years before they found Earth. That's the fluff. If it's a story element, it's fluff. If it's a game mechanic, it's crunch. This is getting people who know the crunch. And you're going to have that one person who they're in the campaign because they know the rules. Now, they may just like the rule system and you're riding along, or they know it better than you and they're going to try to do loopholes. That is your job as a GM to go, okay, I like this. Or you embrace your inner Graham Chapman from Monty Python dressed as the Bobby going, stop that, that's silly. I'm here to stop this rule because it's too silly. Again, ask your parents about Monty Python's Flying Circus. It's good. So, yeah, you pick the brains of your players. If you have someone who knows the rules better than you, there is no... And I'm going to say this is going to be another one of my game Travisms for games. There is no shame in not knowing the rules better than your players. If you have a player who knows the rules as well, pick their brains. Draft them. It's like, oh, okay, we're doing this fine. Okay, look up what, and we all got our phones, and I got laptops, and everybody at my table has a phone. I have Breakman say, okay, look this up on the SRD for Pathfinder. Okay, this feat says you can do this because I've got like 5 windows up already, and I got to add another fucking tab. No, I have them look it up. You draft them to be, you get honorary, temporary GM status right now. Look up these rules. So there's no shame in that game. There's no shame in drafting players to help run your game. I need to start collecting this shit and writing it down. But yeah, you're going to have times where you're going to want to consult your players on a rule because they bring it into the game. And if you do it before the game, that's good. That way then you're not interrupting the flow. But there are just certain times you're going to interrupt the flow. It's going to be in the middle of the damn game and... wait, hold it. What? Oh my God. Okay, context. My child, Shelly, and her new boyfriend, who I don't know his name. He goes by Kidney, running joke between them. Barbenheimer. My kid is in pink. The boy is in a suit. My kid is in pink. I'm not meaning to do this now, but this is just something I'm looking. Yeah, okay. Oh my Lord. I love my child, Shelly. But, wow. Just, okay. Anyways, picking your players' brains to, and here's the thing, I can't edit this out, so yeah, y'all saw me just facepalm right now. Picking your players' brains for rules is never a bad thing. Even if you forget a rule, if you're trying to run the game, you're in a combat, it's like, oh crap, what was the grapple rules again? Or, oh crap, what does this weapon do? You can have this. Okay, look up the damage of the weapon. It's either on your sheet or get your phone. There's no shame in that. No GM is perfect. We get better with the craft. You'll never be perfect. Just deal with it. Your players are there. Remember, it's collective storytelling. And if there's a time that you need to get a player into their brain to help move the story along, do it. There's no shame in that. There's no damage in that. There's no loss of pride. They're not going to think lesser of you. They're going to think, again, I'm part of the show, man. I'm part of the show. So they're going to be like, it'll give them more agency to be in the game because they know, wait a minute. He knows I know this rule set. He's going to be coming to me for it. He doesn't, if he didn't like that rule set, he would have said, you're not using it anymore. He would have nerfed me or redid something. I am his assistant in this regard. And the players will, it gives them agency not only to play their characters, but also to be in the game. They're not going to be sitting there on their phones like this during combat. They'll maybe be looking up stuff for the game. It's like, okay, I need to look this up because my turn's coming up. I'm going to use this new power that I got with this new mechanic. I'm using Akashic magic as cybernetics. They're not using cybernetics. I have an edge in the game. Because there's plenty of rules for cybernetics in OGL. The Akashic rules, Carrie's just now using them because I recommend it. Usually Carrie's recommending stuff to me. I said, oh no. You want to use this? I think it's great. There are a lot of times that the cybernetics using this Akashic magic as a cybernetic implant or a nano app or something not of a magical nature, it's of a tech nature, it puts a whole new spin in the game because we've already got magic. We've already got psi. There are some people, it's like, you know what, I have this one system of magic, it works for me. For me, with D&D, Pathfinder, OGL, I don't do that fire and forget, spell slot, Vancian magic bullshit. I hate it. Give me spell points any day. And if I don't use Scorched Earth Studios Modern Spellcaster class from Technology Unleashed to gain spell points, if I'm using a normal wizard or a druid or a sorcerer, I go back to 3035's D&D Unearthed Arcana, page 151 through 154. They do spell points for the various classes. It's based on your level and your class, and then the highest spell level you can cast, and the stat that does your work. So let's say you are a 15th level wizard. Okay, that's a certain number. Then you can cast, 15th level, highest cast level spell, that's 8. So 8th level, and you have a 20 intelligence. Okay, so it's this number plus this number. That is your spell points that you have to work with. And for 3035 Unearthed Arcana, that is 0, 1 through 9, it'd be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, the odd numbers. So it's 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17. So that means for a 9th level spell, you're spending 17 spell points. But if you've got 110 spell points, you can fire off 10 9th level spells. Enemies are going to die if you're firing around 9th level spells. Your character is looking to kill. Or, show they're going to be the big gun on the block. So that's a rule I use and I put in my campaign, and when a player wants to bring in new rules or they tell me about it, I'll pick their brain about it. Because this might be interesting. This might work for me. And I might use it. If I find out it works, I just won't use it for that campaign. I'll make it SOP, Standard Operating Procedure. It's like, yeah, no, I'm using this now. Why? It works. I've tried to convince other people to do it, and they like the other way. That's fine. You run your game the way you want to. That's why I can't be a player anymore, because I run my games too much. I just sit on my hands while Jeff... I adore Jeff the Breath. He and I are family. Remember, his wife was my protege. I consider, I'm Uncle Trav to their 2 sons. I just can't play in his games because I've been a GM that long. And so I just sit on my hands, and it's like, okay, you have to do this the way you want, and this is not the way I do it. I had to get out of the game. And also there was a problem with another player. I took that player with me. We made the Sunday spin-off game from the Skyrim game. But still, Jeff did pick some things for me because he picked my brain. I have 35 years gaming experience. He was a beginning GM. He ran 4 or 5. He did the Death Eater arc where we go to Harry Potter World to find our dear Death Eater Jimmy Hopkirk. So Jeff was running those 4 or 5 sessions. I have a t-shirt with mimic eyes and a mouth on it because of that whole thing. This bastard made a mimic as a front door to a house in Potter World, London, or Britain. We had to shoot a door to get into his old apartment that he'd left 3 years before. Because this fucker used a mimic. I've been gaming 35 years, I never used a mimic. He uses a mimic as a front door, and I'm like, you're an asshole. And then Z and him get me a shirt. It's yellow, and it's got like the multiple mimic eyes with the long tongue. I wear it to the games now, and I'm just like this. Okay, roll initiative. Yeah, Jeff, yeah. Oh, yeah, you get a +2 to your initiative because you got this spell. Yeah. Oh, no, the finger, it's right here for the shirt. Fuck you. Yeah. So, and it's all out of love. It's all from here. It's all from here. So, yeah. Consulting players on various things to help run your game, from stuff in-game to stuff out of game. Your players are not just there to help you move the story along. Each of them have their life experiences that a lot of times they're putting into their damn characters. You make a character, it's like writing a story. You write a character. If you're a writer, and I've done fanfic, I help co-publish a role-playing game. It's like your kid, and you're going to put everything you can to help raising that kid. I'm a parent myself. You just found that out when seeing my kid in pink for the first time in probably 20 years. Love you, Shelley. It's just, the dress looks good. It's just I'm not used to you in pink. But yeah, so these players, they have their experiences that they're bringing into the game in some way in this character that they're having your game. Each player has a life up to their lifetime at the time. I'm usually the old man in the group, so I've got, okay, you have 3 decades of experience. I will grant you the wisdom of your 3 decades, and I'll see you, 25 years. But they still have those experiences, and picking their brains to help make the game better, whether it's academic knowledge, sciences, personal knowledge, history, geography, local traditions of places in the world, settings. If you're using a setting and they're a fan, pick their brains there because you're going to get a lot better information than a wiki. I'm not discounting the wikis, but you're getting the love of the game from them. And if you can mimic that same look, while they're talking like this, yeah, and in this episode, if you can get that same look when you're running the game, you've nailed it. And then finally, the people who know the rules better than you. And again, there's no shame in not knowing every single rule. That's why this stuff is all written in books and online. But if you have somebody who can say, yeah, no, that's a +3 to that because they're in this condition right now, that's great. Pick their brains. It helps them be a part of this massive thing that we call tabletop role-playing games. And, oh yeah, wow, I managed to, another 2 hours of me ranting about my experiences in the tabletop role-playing game community and bestowing these experiences to you. And this, we can do this because the show is over here. And again, I will be back here on this channel again next Monday with another topic. I will also be back on this channel tomorrow night doing the Travcast, Part 3 of Blind Wolf's Rubber Room Association. It will be cast on dementiaradio.org. DEMENTIARADIO.org. That will also be at 8 p.m. Eastern, because I'm in the Detroit area here, so it's Eastern time zone. And so I will be back here live streaming both the aforementioned Breakman Z and Jeff the Ref will be with me via Discord from their respective locations, all within 10-15 minutes of me. And we will bring you the Travcast, where we inform, enlighten, and entertain. That's like kind of a mission statement, not only of the Travcast, but just me as Trav, which I hope I've done this evening, informing you on how to pick your players' brains to help make a better game. So, and I do want to thank my fellow Twitcher, Jacinda Flowers, for popping in and maybe learning a little something about me. I've learned a lot about her over the past couple weeks. She's another stained glass artist. It's just I don't get to see her do the stained glass art. She's usually doing poolside stuff, just kicking back, relaxing, listening to music, and we'll chat in the chat. But we're supporting each other. So if you want to, this person I referred to, JACINDA Flowers, it's all one word, the J and the F are I. She's here on Twitch. Follow her. She's got far more followers than I do. I'm trying to get up to her level. Do we just have different paths of the same thing? But yeah, blow up my follower count. Let people know. Yeah, this guy has been role playing for 35 years. He's got some cool stuff. I'm at 42 followers right now. Well, let me check. I was at 42 when I started this. Let me see if I got any more here. We're gonna look. Oh wait. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Hold it. Let's do this. Let's use my phone correctly. And yeah, it says right now, oh, you got 11 things here on Twitch. And okay. Oh wait, hold it. I'm still at 42. Folks, let the people know that, I'm willing to let y'all know about tabletop role-playing and what fun you can have doing it. There's a reason I've been doing this for almost 40 years, because I have stories to tell, because I've gamed with a lot of people over the past 40 years, and they've all enhanced my experiences, given me more experiences, which I now bestow on my current players, and now through this show to all of you. I will be back tomorrow night for the Travcast, and I'm going to use the term I use at the end of my show, Lord willing the creek don't rise, and my dear late friend Milt Weeks used to say. I'll be back here next Monday with more of Uncle Trav's campaign notes, and it's me, your old Uncle Trav, giving you tips on how to make your games fire. So we're going to drop this off here like I always do with gaming is collective storytelling. Gather some friends and make great stories. I'll see y'all tomorrow night here for the Travcast and next week for another edition of Uncle Trav's Campaign Notes. Good night. If you swing that way, God bless. Stay cool because there's a lot of parts of this country that are hot as hell right now. I'm looking at you, Texas, Florida, and Arizona. 101 degree ocean water. But climate change is a joke. All right, I am out of here. Y'all have a good evening. I'm going to relax. I'm going to have the rest of this wonderful Palumbo Italian wine that I got because I want to relax after this. I put in 2 hours here. Y'all were great. Thanks for tuning in. See you tomorrow.